Here's a psychological truth that will change how you see every relationship in your life. And by the end of this, you'll understand why the people closest to you suddenly turned against you. Carl Jung discovered something profound about human nature that explains why your growth threatens others. He said that most people do anything to avoid confronting their own shadow, the parts of themselves they refuse to acknowledge. When you start healing, when you start growing, you become a living mirror that forces everyone around you to see exactly what they're avoiding. This process often causes discomfort because it challenges their perception of themselves and how they fit into the world. It's not just about your transformation, it's about theirs. And that's why it can feel like everyone is turning against you unexpectedly, even when you're only becoming more authentic. But here's what Jung observed that will shock you about why people really hate your transformation. According to Jung, the moment you stop playing the role others assigned you, you trigger what he called projection. They start projecting their own unhealed wounds, their own stagnation, their own fear change directly onto you. You're not being hated for who you become. You're being hated for who they refuse to become. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. This means that the criticisms and hostility you face are often reflections of their own inner struggles, not necessarily about you at all. Recognizing this can help you detach emotionally from their negativity, understanding that their reactions are about their unresolved issues. But most people aren't ready for that level of self-awareness. So instead of looking inward, they attack outward. They attack you. And here's the part that will make everything click about your relationships. Carl Jung discovered that every person carries a shadow self, the collection of traits, emotions, and aspects of personality that they rejected or denied. When you start setting boundaries, when you stop people-pleasing, when you refuse to shrink yourself, you're essentially integrating your shadow. You're becoming whole. This process is powerful but can evoke fear and hostility because it exposes the parts of others they prefer to hide. It's a courageous act of self-awareness that not everyone prepared for, which is why your growth might trigger such intense reactions from those around you. But for people who are still running from their shadow, your wholeness becomes unbearable to witness. Jung observed that we despise in others what we haven't accepted in ourselves. Your confidence reminds them of their insecurity. Your boundaries remind them of their inability to say no. Your peace reminds them of their internal chaos. When you embody these qualities, it's like holding up a mirror to their own deficiencies and unresolved conflicts. This can make them feel uncomfortable or even angry because it forces them to confront their own shortcomings. They may attempt to diminish your progress or criticize you as a way to protect their fragile sense of self. But wait until you hear what Jung said about why your family and closest friends are often the first to turn against you. According to Carl Jung, there's a psychological process called individuation, the journey of becoming who you truly are, separate from the expectations and projections of others. Jung said, this process is essential for psychological health, but it's also deeply threatening to the people around you. Why? Because your individuation forces them to confront their own lack of authentic self. When you stop being who they needed you to be and start being who you actually are, it shatters the illusion they built their identity around. They don't hate the real you. They hate that the real you exists at all because it proves they've been living a lie, and that realization can be too much for them to handle emotionally. Here's where Jung's most revolutionary discovery explains why entire groups turn against you. Carl Jung said that we're all connected through what he called the collective unconscious, shared patterns of behavior and belief systems that keep societies functioning. But these same systems depend on conformity, on people staying in their assigned roles, on maintaining the status quo. When you break free from these collective patterns, When you refuse to participate in generational trauma, when you stop enabling dysfunctional family dynamics, you're not just changing yourself, you're threatening the entire system. Jung observed that the collective unconscious will mobilize to bring the deviant back in line. That's why it feels like everyone turned against you at once, because the collective system is designed to resist change and uphold the status quo at all costs. This resistance can manifest as hostility, gossip, or even outright rejection, but it's rooted in the fear of chaos that your transformation threatens to induce within the social fabric. But here's what Jung discovered about why people say you've changed like it's a crime. According to Carl Jung, we all wear masks, he called them personas, to navigate social situations. Most people mistake their persona for their true self. They become so identified with the mask that they forget there's a real person underneath. When you outgrow your persona, when you stop performing the character others expected, it feels like death to them. Not your death, but the death of their projection. Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. They're not ready for that level of self-acceptance, so they blame you for triggering their own fears and insecurities. They project their discomfort onto you, making you the scapegoat for their internal struggles and unresolved conflicts. And here's Jung's insight that will explain why your growth makes people so uncomfortable. Carl Jung discovered that we all have both masculine and feminine psychological traits, what he called the anima and animus. Society often forces us to suppress one side to fit into social norms. But when you start integrating both aspects of your psyche, when you become both compassionate and strong, nurturing and assertive, it threatens people who are still splitting these qualities into binary categories. Your wholeness makes their fragmentation obvious. Jung observed that people will attack the very qualities in you that they forbid in themselves, because seeing your complete self highlights their own internal dissonance. They may feel jealous, threatened, or even enraged because your authentic self challenges their own incomplete or suppressed identity. But wait until you understand what Jung called a transcendent function and why it makes you dangerous. According to Carl Jung, psychological growth happens through the transcendent function, the ability to hold opposing forces in tension until a new level of consciousness emerges. When you can be both loving and boundary-setting, empathetic and detached, open and selective, you've accessed something most people can't comprehend. This transcendent consciousness is exactly what threatens others. You're no longer predictable because you're no longer operating from unconscious patterns. You've transcended the either/or thinking that keeps most people trapped, and that level of psychological freedom is terrifying to those still caught in binary thinking. It challenges their entire worldview and threatens to shake the foundation of their identity. Here's what Carl Jung said that will change how you see every person who turned against you. Jung observed that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But he also warned that this privilege comes with a price, the loss of everyone who is only attached to your false self. The people who hate you now aren't responding to who you become. They're responding to who they refuse to become. Your healing journey is forcing them to confront their own psychological stagnation. And instead of using that as motivation to grow, they're using it as justification to attack. According to Jung, individuation, becoming your authentic self, is not just a personal journey. It's a spiritual and psychological imperative. And the hatred you're experiencing isn't evidence that you're on the wrong path. It's confirmation that you're on the only path that truly matters, the path back to yourself. This journey often involves shedding layers of societal conditioning, family expectations, and limiting beliefs, which can be painful but ultimately leads to liberation and true self-awareness. It's about embracing your unique purpose and trusting that the universe will support your growth if you stay committed to your authentic self. Jung said, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. When you tear down those barriers, integrate your shadow, transcend projections, and embrace your true self, That is exactly why they can't stand you anymore. The deeper your authenticity, the more you threaten the illusions others cling to for their own comfort. The question isn't why they hate you. The question is, are you strong enough to keep growing despite their hatred? Because, according to Carl Jung, your psychological evolution depends on it. You're on a journey of profound transformation, one that will challenge your relationships, but also elevate your consciousness. Every bit of resistance, every hostile reaction, is a sign that you're moving in the right direction, toward your highest potential. Embrace that process fully, knowing that you're becoming more aligned with your true self. And that's the most powerful act of liberation you can undertake. Thank you so much for staying with me through this exploration. If you found value in today's discussion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who might benefit from it. Remember, your growth not only changes your life, but also challenges the systems and beliefs around you. Stay courageous, keep evolving, and trust that your journey towards self-awareness and authenticity is the most important one you will ever undertake. Together, we can break through limitations and create a more conscious, empowered world, one person at a time.